Hey guys, I'm gonna do a video on the charging system on these old Dodge vans. This is a 86, 85 or 86. It's the same thing. So when I got this van, it wouldn't charge. Let me open the hood. And Dodge, these were the weird years for Dodge, because they came with this little 60 amp alternator that requires an external voltage regulator. So what a regulator does, I'm sure you guys are on here, you already know, you're pre-mechanics or have experience with Chevy or Ford. Chevy, has internal voltage regulator. Well, depending on the year, but Ford makes alternators pretty simple as well. They got that. Some of them got the Motorcraft external voltage regulator, which is kind of similar to this Dodge setup here. Some of the old Chevys have also external voltage regulator, but you can just put a modern internal regulator alternator with a one wire alternator. Cost you $100 and you can be done with external voltage regulators. Well, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to keep mine original, so I went for a ride, and sure enough, battery died. Wasn't charging. Hey, Mr. B. And I said, well, I looked at the regulator. Well, I looked at the outside of the regulator, and this is what it looked like. It looked pretty new. I mean, if you look at this thing, I said, well, I don't think it could be the regulator, so let me go ahead and change the alternator. So I went to the local parts store here and bought a alternator. When I was taking the old one off, there were pieces that fell out of it. When I flipped it backwards, the diodes in the back fell out. So I said, okay, I hit the nail on the head. I'm not really familiar too much with Dodges as far as charging systems or points or their electronic system. I know that is their control module for their electronics, for the distributor. But anyway, that's a whole different video. Okay, so if it's not charging, you can do this. Instead of spending the $60-something on the alternator, you can go ahead. I would just go ahead and buy the regulator, or just unbolt your old regulator. And I'm going to show you guys something. I should have did that, but I didn't. I just went ahead and bought the alternator because this thing looked new. Well, if I would have took this off, well, my alternator was bad because it was in pieces. But most of you guys, your alternator won't be like mine, because that van's set for 11 years. Look at the back of this thing. Yeah. Had I seen that, I would have bought it. Well, in a regular case scenario, I would have bought this and I would have been fine. It's melted, burnt up pretty good. Well, anyway, in my case, I went and bought the alternator first. Still didn't charge. Somebody told me about a hack where you can take the plug off the regulator, which is that, this is the new one. They said you could take the plug off the regulator, put a jumper wire, and it'll charge enough for you to get home, but it's not recommended for long hauls. So I did that. Nothing. Voltage was still at 12.68. Not 12.68, 12.6. From 6 to 8, it would jump from 12.6 to 12.08. 0608. Okay. Anyway, so 12 bolts. And it baffled me. I said, well, I seen the guy do the hack, and the darn thing started charging, 14, almost 15 volts, and he was able to get home. So I said, God, I hope this darn thing isn't bad. So I said, okay, let me go ahead and buy a regulator. After I pulled my old one off, and I said, yeah, it's melted. Waited the 2 days, it got here, and presto, it's charging like a champ. So let me show you the back of the alternator. Well, maybe if I unlock the door first. That's what the back of the alternator looks like. So basically, guys, if you got 12 volts to this, 12 volts here, and 12 volts there, your alternator is perfectly fine. If you're missing voltage in any of those three while it's running, start it up and check the voltage. It might change, because at this plug here, I had 12.20 volts, and at these it was at 12 flat, but it had voltage. I checked my old one before I took it off. I had 12 volts here, nothing here, nothing there. 12 volts here, nothing here, I think it was. Anyway, so if you're missing voltage on one of those two plugs, most likely you're gonna have to buy an alternator. So then somebody told me there's a resistor. Well, yes, there is a resistor. It's right here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is right there. Well, go ahead and jump it. Well, somebody already jumped it, but I found out that resistor is not actually for the charging system. That resistor is for the ignition system. Totally different can of beans. So don't worry about that. Basically, alternator, regulator, good battery, and you should be charging. As soon as I plugged in the regulator, I got 14.6 volts. Turn the lights on, it doesn't drop, it doesn't budge, so that's perfect. The alternator light went off. And basically, that's it, guys. Make sure that you have I think it's a 20 amp or 30 amp fuse on your dash. Make sure that that's good, and most of the time it's going to be just fine. It's in here. There's the fuse box, and that's it. They sell a modded alternator with an internal voltage regulator. If you can afford that, that would be sweet. The alternators are pretty much all the same, from the 60s all the way up to, I believe it's 1987. They're all like this. They sell them 60 amp, 90 amp, 120 amps. So this is the 60 amp one. And that's it, man. There's really nothing to it. I was over here scratching my head, banging myself apart, and it's pretty simple setup. I'll go ahead and start up, see you can see it's charging. And the voltmeter's good as well. Pump the gas because it's carbureted. When you first start up, it's a little high because it likes to arc up probably around to 15 volts, and then it calms down. We'll put a voltage. We'll put a meter on here. Hopefully I can do this with one hand. Okay. So perfect. You can't get no better than that. Alright guys. Another tip, make sure that your fan belts are tight. Don't over tighten them because you're going to kill the life on them. But if these fan belts are slipping, you're going to get a wrong voltage. It's going to drop. Yeah. Dropping back. It'll drop down to like 12.4. It'll keep dropping. Anyway, there it is. Very simple. Nothing too extravagant. I was drowning myself. Oh, I heard nightmares about dodges in the charging systems. Now, check this out. This alternator must have been bad right before they parked this van, because, well, I believe that alternator was, the voltage regulator, I'm sorry, was overcharging. And then when you have an overcharging problem, this is what happens. Look at that. That box controls something. I haven't done the homework on that yet. But that melted. This box here melted. Look. All the way down. Because it started probably charging 17, 18, 19 volts to the battery. And these units here aren't gonna handle that, so they start to melt. In my case, I guess they parked the van just in time for it not to do any damage to the wiring harness. So I ordered all these boxes, a heater control, the other ones I think controls the wipers or something, and then the ignition control. It's not called ignition control module, it's called ignition control. I ordered that one too, just to be safe. And then all the wires, the rest of the wires look fine. So I caught it just in time. Or they parked it just in time. Hope this helps. Any questions, you can hit me up on the comment section. Again, I'm not an expert at this, but obviously, you know, any little bit of help that you guys can get, I'm willing to fork out. God bless you guys. Bye.